Pat, I've coached people around the country in real estate investing, right? But a lot of them I feel like they're scared to take action. And I want to ask you, Walt Disney says that it's good to have a good failure early on. So I want to know your perspective on failure. My people, I'm like, I want to just say, listen, get out there and just mess it up. Try it. At least you tried. I don't care if you mess it up, but fail.
I will tell you, if a person's watching this and they're single with no kids and no one that relies on your income and you have the money to mess it up, go mess it up ASAP. ASAP. You shouldn't be hesitating if you're single and you don't have any responsibilities, people that are relying on you. Now, if
I'm glad you framed that
the
up.
person is married with kids and the monthly expenses to cover the private school and everything for the kids and a wife and a husband and a family, everybody's $8,000 a month, and you're making $10,000 a month household income, that's $2,000 discretionary, and you got $30,000 in the bank and maybe $40,000 in 401k, well then maybe I understand why you're not fully going for it. But you can take a portion of your $30,000 in savings and you can take a portion of your discretionary and play a little bit of offense. You can do that. So it's all based on the situation a person's in. My idea is to sit down with the individual I'm speaking to, know what level of respect that person can tolerate, and we start there. So if you can tolerate a certain level of respect, if it's how much money can you lose comfortably and you'll be pissed, but you can get over it, I think I can lose $20,000 and get over it. Okay, cool. Let's start with that number. Great. That's my conversation. Okay. When I was a stockbroker, it's like, well, I don't know. Listen, your account's got $500,000. Yes. You're only 42 years old. Yes. You ain't retired. Well, you said you want to retire at 65. Yes. We got 23 years till you hit that because you're 42. Yes. Okay. How much of that $500,000 are you willing to risk that can potentially turn into 10x more, or you can also lose it all? I don't know, 100,000 of it. Okay, great. Let's work with that. Okay. So I want to make sure I got the risk tolerance of the individual. And once I have that, I work with that. Maybe I'll stretch a little bit and then we get them to commit and we'll move from there. In anything I do, that's how it starts.
But Frederick Douglass says there are no failures, there's only feedback, Pat. I mean, don't we need to learn from the failure even if they do fail?
We do, but also at the same time, a study came back talking about who the best CEOs are. And it talks about, many times we think the best CEOs are the ones that are the visionaries and big personalities and all this other stuff. It says the best CEOs are the most paranoid people, okay? Because the most paranoid CEOs, I don't know if you've watched the documentary, The Two Bills. I don't know if you've seen it. Bill Belichick and Bill Parcells. Have you watched that or no? Oh my gosh.
The Two Bills.
It's ridiculous, okay? I don't make money saying this. It's absolutely ridiculous. There is a part where Lawrence Taylor, remember LT 56 from New York? Lawrence Taylor, he says, when I was working with Parcells had this personality, would come up and he just kind of knew how to kick my ass, but I felt good because it was a relation, all this other stuff. And he says, he was always the will guy. He would make us win. He says, but Bill Belichick was ridiculous on how much we had to prepare and work hard, because he would be paranoid about what the other defense could potentially do or offense could do, that we would have to double the training because he was so paranoid. Guy's got 6 championships. They call him the greatest coach of all time. So there is a value on being a little bit, I think if you're playing too much caution for the entire life, ain't nothing big gonna happen to you. Now listen, for myself, I risked my entire savings on the line.
Me too.
And I had to do that. And I went all in, but I kind of didn't worry about losing the whole thing because I didn't have kids, I didn't have responsibilities. Had I had 3 kids, would I have gone 100% of it? Maybe no, maybe I would have gone 50% of it, but I still would have taken it. Even today, I take risks every single day with what I'm doing. Most people are saying fire 50% of your staff. We got 100 employees here. I'm not firing anybody yet. We're not firing, and this whole thing that's going on, we have to send them home, cost, all this other stuff, right? So we are firing a few people, but it's not something where I'm going 50% because of the decision. So we are taking some risks, but there is an element of you making educated decision rather than winging it. I think sometimes people make winging decisions and that ends up biting them in the butt. You can make an educated decision, you can still take a risk at the same time.
Gotcha. Pat, in the 25 Laws for Doing the Impossible, one of your books, you talked about money is something we have to grow into. We have to develop a sense of responsibility and wisdom for it. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, think about it when you had a girl that you really liked, but she was way ahead of your league. okay? And you're kind of like, man, I'd love to date that girl. My gosh, I'd love to date that girl. But you know she's not at your level. So what do you need to do to get to that level? If you go and ask her out, she's like, I'd never date a guy like you. Why not? So let me get this straight. I'm a career person. I work my butt off. I make my own money. I'm somebody that's a hard worker. Why would I date somebody that's broke, that doesn't have their finances in order? Why would I do that? I'm not going to do that. First of all, I wouldn't mind my daughter to do that. So I remember being 23 years old. I was dating this girl, relationship didn't end. She left me and she went to another guy that was making $250,000 a year income. I was making 30 grand a year at the time, okay? And I sat there and I asked the craziest question. I said, you know, if your daughter came home to introduce you to a guy that was the 23-year-old version of you, would you let her be with you? I said, hell no.
Oh,
I said, absolutely not. No way in the world. So
that's a rough question.
In that moment, I sat there and I asked myself, who do I have to be where I would be okay with my daughter saying I'm dating this guy? Great. Then I went to work, right? I went to work. Money is the same way, okay? If you want to make $5 million a year income, you have to ask yourself, what does a $5 million a year income person think about? What's their work schedule? How do they lead people? How do they develop people? What systems do they have in place? What processes do they have in place? How many books have they read? What topics have they studied? What context do they have? What relationships do they have? Who have they shadowed under? How much of an expert are they at what they do? How diligent are they? How much do they pay attention to details? What is this person about? How does this person think? Then I work backwards. And then I say, okay, then you work on becoming this person and you start making $5 million a year. That's just kind of how the formula works. Because money, just like anything else, wants to be seduced, man. Let me tell you, money wants to be seduced. I mean, if you look at anything in the world, man, you look at look at Rock. Man, he seduces his audience.
I love him.
Think about that. He is so seductive, and it's weird for me to say another man is seductive, but not in the way of sexual way, right? You just kind of sit there and you're like, man, you're so interesting. Will Smith, you're like, I can't tell you how interesting this guy is. Man, you're so interesting. Why are you like this? And by the way, Trump and Obama are seductive in their own way. This is not a political thing. Obama's seductive in his own way. Man, it's interesting. Well, you know, Jimmy, one of my concerns is just, why do you talk that way? Such a good storyteller and witty, you know, and then Trump, and man, whenever, like, the moment you think he's pissed, then he tells a joke, then he calls her out, sit down. Man, he's very interesting character, right? So the same way they did that, you got to seduce money. Money wants to be seduced, man. It just wants to be seduced. It wants you to woo, you know, it wants you to kind of get her to say, oh my gosh, I want to be in your pocket. I want to be in your bank account. Whoever does that best gets the money.
Gotcha. Pat, Dennis Kimbrough says, he has a book called What Makes the Great Great. He said a man can never rise above his vision. How do people get clear? I remember at the Vault last year, you were so point on talking about none of this wouldn't happen until I got clear with the vision. First of all, how do you get these visions and how do you get clear with them?
That's a good question. I think it's something that my answers changed over the years, so I'll give you the answer on what it is today. When it comes down to vision, I had a lot of people that would say, you know, I'm working so hard to find my purpose because I want to find, the moment I find my purpose, I'm going to do so well because I need to find my purpose in life and I need to find my vision. I know the moment I find my vision, I'm going to be like you. And I said, you know, it's crazy. I didn't have a vision when I was making $250,000 a year income. The only thing I thought about is, I want to pay off this $49,000 of debt. I want to travel the world. I want my dad to stop working at the 99-cent store. And I don't want the banker to look at me the way she looks at me when I go to the bank. Next. Yes. Have you filled out the paper yet? Can you please fill it out? Why don't you fill it out? Sir, please go over there and fill it out and come back. Next. I don't want that. I don't want to be talked to that way. I want to go to a restaurant and I want them to say, Mr. Bet David, we have your table ready for you. Good. I want that. But I haven't earned that, right? So I wanted that kind of an experience for me. So, you know, when you sit there and you think about the vision side, you have to know that if you don't have the vision, you have to work with somebody who does. and then be patient that eventually, somehow, some way, something's going to click. And then when it does, you're off to the races. Finding a vision is like finding a woman or a man that you want to marry. You can't force it. Like, it can't be like, oh, I'm going to make this one work. No way in the world. How many marriages do you know that didn't work out because a man or a woman forced? And how many marriages do you know that people are in the marriage but they're miserable? But they're not getting out of it just because they have kids involved, and they just don't want their friends to say, oh, look, they got a divorce as well, and they don't want to disappoint parents. Wow. But since 9 years ago, they wanted to get a divorce, and they probably should have gotten a divorce. So what is the right way to take it? No, for me, there's certain things you can't force. You can't force kids. You can't force marriage. You can't force a kid to be like you. You got to let your kid find his way. You can't force somebody to be your husband or your wife. You can't. He just doesn't want to be your husband. Let him go. She does not want to be with you. Stop forcing it. And you go back in 6 more months of being together and it sucks, and you should have broken up 9 months ago. Vision's the same way. You're working. You hear a story, you read a book, you watch a movie, you see something, a conversation, all of a sudden, like, bam, it hits you. That's it. That's it. That's all I want to do. Then you go do it. And you know when it hits you. You can't force it though. For me, it was that kind of a moment. When it hit me, I was at a dinner at Miramar Hotel. The speaker spoke, George Will. He got off stage. I'm there with John Voight and a few other people. And I got up, I said, I got it. I got it. That night when I went home, I was so excited when I went to sleep.
What did you say?
He asked me a question. I said, listen, I'm trying to figure, because I had my board, everybody around me in my life. I'm like, I got to figure out what I want to do in my life. And everybody was taking me places to meet people. So I'd go meet certain people. Do you want to go to church route? Do you want to go to this route? Do you want to go to mill? What do you want to do? Then I heard this man speak, and he says, here, George, George was an advisor to multiple presidents, Reagan being one of them. And he says, can you say something to this man, Patrick Bet-David? He says, so we sat down, we started speaking. He says, tell me your story. I told him my story. He says, so you came here from Iran. You went to Germany at a refugee camp. You lived there for 2 years. Then you came here. You went to the military. Now you're an entrepreneur, self-made. Yeah. Why don't you go back and find out why millions of immigrants come to America? And then once you do, once you talk about that for the rest of your life. So why don't you go back and find? So that's exactly what I did. The rest is history. So that moment I went home, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the Great Equalizer.
Capitalism.
That's it. And it just went deep. Then it's over from there. So I can't have a single conversation with somebody for an hour without the topic of capitalism or entrepreneurship coming up. I just can't. It is what it is.
Do you consider yourself, let me rewind, Pat, let's stay in the vision frame for a minute. I'm ashamed to say that I'm just implementing the Mastermind strategy from Napoleon Hill. You know, so I'm learning, I want to do better, be better. I want to know, do you have a mastermind, Pat, and what type of people are in this mastermind that you?
It's a good question. I mean, the mastermind that you're talking about is the painting on the wall that I call dead mentors. That if you go look at the wall, everyone's dead on that wall. And I'm in the painting as well. It's myself, John F. Kennedy, Abraham Lincoln, I have the Shah of Iran, I have Einstein, I have Tupac, I have Ayrton Senna, I have Milton Friedman, and I have Martin Luther King, and then I have Aristotle and Aurelius there, and a couple other hidden things that I've written in that part. That is my...
so your mastermind exists with people
they're all dead. Yeah, it's my favorite mastermind, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's my favorite. I mean, listen, man, I always think about what it would have been for me to work with Tupac, and if we had a friendship and talking, like, oh my gosh, Martin Luther King, to sit down and have a conversation with this man to see how he thinks, or sitting down and watching John F. Kennedy and Abraham Lincoln disagree and debate, and while they have so many, one's a Democrat, one's a Republican, the dispute. I mean, that to me is fascinating. And I got 2 books on the painting. One is Karl Marx, Communist Manifesto, which is about communism, and the other one is Atlas Shrugged, by Ayn Rand, which is capitalism, and they're just fighting it out. Like, that's a beautiful clash, because if you can see that happening, you're getting all the juice out, right? You're getting all this juice that's coming to you, where you're getting clear. So that's who that is. Now, as far as my mastermind, with the people that have influence over me, these are people that are way better at what they do than I am. In areas, way better at what they do than I am. I got some people around me that they're geniuses when it comes onto private equity, or when it comes onto handling of people or businesses or deal making. And when I sit down with them, I'm a student, and I'm sitting around, I'm just listening to what these guys have to say. Oh yeah. So that's the business end, but then that other part is the history end.
So, well, I guess the mastermind, let me ask you, do they all meet together with you, or do you meet with them separately?
It's separately.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's separately.
So you don't
sometimes
have go.
Sometimes it's together, but it's a lot of times it's separately because it'll be a different topic I'm talking to them about. And sometimes when they commingle together, we'll be together, but many times it's separate.
So you don't have like a group that you would meet maybe once a year or twice a year?
I have a board every month I get together with, but the people I meet with, they're not all in the same circle. They're not. And I like it that way because I get to go in a different, some of them are, entertainment. Some of them are purely insurance and business. Some of them are private equity. I love that whole thing where we kind of go away. And sometimes it's a group will be all of us together. Like one of the trips we did, we went to Breckenridge, and it was 5 of us together for 3 days. And one of the friends that I had there, he's got a $50 million business, and another guy's a brilliant genius who sold a couple businesses for a couple billion. And conversations was so great. One of them was a diehard Democrat. One of them was a diehard Republican. Nice. One of them was an independent. One of them was an atheist. The other one was a Christian. One was a Catholic. Oh my gosh, it was beautiful. Oh my gosh, it was beautiful. Those conversations are just priceless.
Do you consider yourself in the information marketing business, Pat?
No, information marketing business.
Because this is what I have here when I went to the vault. I mean, this is what you're giving me is information.
But I don't do that because, you know how much of that money I took home? None of it. Like when I taught this course, and say I don't know how many people showed up. Say 550 people bought tickets. The average ticket, what did you pay to go to?
I paid $2,000.
Okay, you paid $2,000. Say the average ticket was around $1,200. So what's $1,200 times 550? $700,000. Let's just say $700,000 is the dollar amount, right? That money has never gone to my account. So I don't do it because I need the money. I'm doing this because the Valuetainment audience asked for us to do this. And if I do a conference like this, I'm not going to wing it. We're going to put the best kind of information together. We're going to leave saying, I'm going to implement this stuff. I want you to leave and go teach your guys through this. And it's not just some exciting motivational stuff. And I don't want you to leave saying, I was just at a pitch fest. You go to a place they're going to learn what to do, right? So technically, yes. But it's not my core. It's like a layer under. No, it's like, it's one of the moves I'm making that has nothing to do with the bigger move. It's just a step that I'm going through to get to the next level. Like that the Valuetainment audience is going to end up being a massive community of everybody working together, and we're accountants teaming up, money. If you need money, you got a pool of people that are all speaking the same language of Valuetainment. Because when Valuetainment people talk to each other, they speak the same language. And when you work together, hey, you're a Valuetainer? Yeah, okay, then I know how you're wired, because you know what audience is turned on to what content. Some people are turned on to other content and they all speak the same language. Valuetainers have a different kind of a language that they speak, and they all understand each other. So the idea is a very, so technically yes, but it's not at all part of the long-term play.
Sort of like a byproduct.
It's fully a byproduct, yeah.
I'll give you a piece of paper, Pat.
Yeah.
I want to talk about reinventing yourself. Pat, I don't know if I've told you this, but thank you for what you do, by the way. 2016, I want you to look at my views. This is my stats. This is my analytics from my YouTube channel, right? 2016, and let's put this on the screen. I'll put my team. We've got 32,000 views on my channel, and this is just from a business aspect. I want to let you know that this is kind of mirroring my business. 2017, we go up to right at roughly 75,000 views, right? But right around July 2017, I was introduced to Valuetainment, Pat. And OMGesus. If you look at 2018, my numbers, I don't even know what the increase would be if you were to calculate it. We're at 1.6 million views. This is exactly how my business took off, Pat. What are you, regarding recreating, I didn't do videos until I saw your content, what you were putting out. It gave me the ability to say, you know what, maybe I could do something like this also. Did you recreate yourself to implement Valuetainment content creation?
First of all, let me say this to you. You 19.5x'd yourself in subscribers, okay, which is nuts. You 30x'd watch time, okay, and you 22x'd your views is what you did with your channel, okay, which means you're well on track to get to 100,000 and a million subs in no time. You know, I watched a video you did when you were at the vault, okay, and I was complimenting you off camera. I want to say this on camera as well. Here's what you have going on for yourself. You're likable, you're trusting, you're relatable. It's very hard to do. Oprah had that, you know, and Oprah was, when you would watch her, you're like, oh my gosh, she's likable, she's trusting, and I relate to her. You're like, oh my gosh, you have that as well. If somebody's watching you, you seem very relatable, very likable, and trusting, and those three qualities are very, very important nowadays, specifically if you're going to turn the camera and get in front of it. And then at the same time, you know, there's different kinds of platforms. One of the hardest platforms to create following on is value. It's not an easy thing to do. It's very easy to create a platform. If I were to bring sexy girls and 36, 24, 36, you know, six-pack, all that stuff, we'd blow up in no time because, you know, sex sells and it's attractive. People want to see that, right? You know, it's easy to get something going if I'm a travel vlogger and I'm going places and look at me and look at this and look at that because it's the dream constantly. It's easy for me to do stuff if I'm like a prankster and I'm, you know, doing certain things and people see that. Very hard to get a value channel going. So you chose the hardest one.
Really?
To go out there and do. This is the toughest play. Think about it. The biggest YouTube channels in the world, if you go look at the world, it's not value. At the top is PewDiePie. Okay? Then it's the Indian channel. What is the Indian channel called? TC.
I don't even know what they do.
100 million subs. It's a Indian music is what it is, right? So PewDiePie's 100-something million, and the other guys are 100 million. And the next thing you know is like Justin Bieber and people like that. Music, entertainment. And then after every industry leaves, then it's value. Okay? People would much rather watch a funny video or music or be entertained or video game than watch somebody that's going to bring in value. So you chose the toughest gig. But if you're able to bring value to people consistently and people trust you, like you, and relate to you, eventually you're going to have a big following. That's what you're doing.
Wow. Thank you, Pat. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
We talked about the social media stuff, and let me just get I wanted to get a little closure on social media. There are a lot of CEOs, guys do what you do, but they are not on camera a lot like you. Did you know that social media was going to be so impactful when you were doing it?
Yes. I knew it was going to be. I didn't know I was going to get this big of a reach. I did know it was impactful because, again, it goes back to me seeing what Ron Paul did, and you don't have to have their budget. I mean, nowadays, look at all the equipment you got here. If you go 15 years ago, this equipment to all this stuff, it's going to cost you $50,000. Now, not today. Today, this equipment's not going to cost you $50,000. So, yes, I did know it was going to be big. I didn't know how big of an audience there was for what I was going to be sharing. That took a couple years of realizing that there is an audience that wants to hear what I have to say. That took a while.
Pat, do you carry a notepad?
Do I carry a notepad? No.
Idea pops in your head. Where does it go?
I'm not a notepad guy. I am a iPhone notes guy. I will write notes. Like my iPhone notes is jam-packed.
Okay, so you have digital.
Yes, but not a notepad.
person.
Yeah. But yeah, I tell you, it's interesting. Yes, 15 years ago, I was a 3x5 card guy.
3x5 card.
I always had 3x5 cards in my jacket.
Gotcha.
Always.
Gotcha.
Not today.
So you do have a system for getting down notes somewhere
Yes.
instantly.
Yes.
Okay. Why digital instead of? I'm just thinking about like we're working on this notepad, the Millionaire Notebook.
Oh, I think it's what works for me because I don't like to carry a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Let me tell you, the most annoying time of my day is in the morning when I have to decide what to wear. I'm not going to lie to you. It's very annoying. Like right now, I grew my hair, right? So if I take my hat off, my hair right now is very annoying to me. And I'm just so sick of it to the point that I'm going to cut it and go back to what it was before because that takes time. Thinking about what I want to wear takes. So for me to have another thing to carry,
Not you. Gotcha.
Not going to do it.
But at least I'm just saying you have something to take notes down.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, yeah, okay, gotcha.
You scribble a lot as well.
Doodle a lot.
On what?
On every paper. By my desk, if you see my desk, there's stacks of paper, and every one of them will have doodling all over it, everywhere.
Pat, would you say that there is a distinct difference in making/earning money versus managing it? And was there a point in your life where you said, you know what, I need to figure out how to manage this stuff? Because there's so much of it coming in.
Yeah.
And I want you to just go a little bit, because everybody's, I think, well, the majority of my audience, everybody's just looking for so much increase. I want to get more and more and more and more. But I'm thinking for myself, it's like, maybe I need to kind of look at what I have before I continually put on the earn faucet.
Yeah. So earning, making, offense, managing, defense, right? So it's very simple. I mean, making money is exciting because you're scoring, so you can go and have fans and, make some highlights. But defense means you win championships. So defense is also necessary for you to make the right decisions so you can go up against the tougher guys. So, but when it comes down to money and what you're talking about, to me, it's all on who you want to be and what life you want to live, which is one of the first things we talk about at the Vol Conference. So who do you want to be and what kind of a life you want to live? Meaning, if you want to make $200,000 a year and live in a $500,000 home and your kids go to a good, decent private school and you're happy spending time with your wife and you got your Saturdays and Sundays and you're solving for that, then you're good. If you're somebody that's saying, you know what, I don't know, I want to solve for $1 million a year income. So you have to increase your income. And I do want to build a long-term philosophy to really increase my net worth by creating wealth. So what am I going to do to create a better investment philosophy, long-term and short-term? Then you have to spend some time sitting there and thinking about that on who you want. But everything for me is who you want to be and what kind of a life you want to live. Once you identify who you want to be and what kind of a life you want to live, then you take the next necessary steps, because you may not have to do anything depending on the life you want to live. Somebody may be very, very happy watching this saying, look, man, I'll just be honest with you. I own 4 rental properties. It pays me $2,400 a month, and I make my $60,000 a year at my job. You have no idea how fulfilled and happy I am. I don't want to do nothing. I'm good. And long term, I'm not getting rid of these properties. I'm planning on retiring 20 years from now. I'm going to be good. The other person that's ambitious, driven, competitive, crazy, wants to do a little bit more, they got some work to do, because it's typically tough to satisfy somebody that can't help themselves.
I'm nervous about my kids going to college, Pat, to be honest with you, and I'm thinking about adversity. Are they going to have the same adversity as me? Do they need to go to college? Do they not need to go to college? Your thoughts on your kids? Or do you think about that at this point in life?
100%. I mean, I'll give you an answer that's going to contradict on what I wrote. I wrote a book called Drop Out and Go Get School, right? But if my dad was me, again, if I am a son born in this guy, and he's my dad, he gave me the biggest opportunity, brought us to America with my mom. Thank you. But if now my dad is Patrick Bet-David, and I have his contacts, his relationship, his resources, and I can earn his respect as a son to show that I'm not somebody that just wants to rely on your money. Daddy, I love you, and I want to pay respect to the Bet-David family. Great. My entire conversation with my kids is to find out what they want. Entire conversation with my kids. And I don't pressure them to do what they don't want to do. My son, I put him in every sport. One time I was playing basketball. As a father, I lost it so bad, I was embarrassed for myself. What the hell are you doing? You're embarrassing.
On the court?
On the court, I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? He doesn't want to play this game. What are you doing to him? And he's like, I don't like this game. So then one day I came back, I'm like, let me see what draws this guy in. So now, we get books. He devours books.
Okay.
My 8-year-old devours books. He's read a couple hundred books, okay? And he'll sit there and he'll read Stan Lee. And he'll say, Daddy, I also want to make movies and characters. And then he'll read Alfred Hitchcock. You know what I want to do? What? I want to make movies so scary that Alfred Hitchcock gets scared. And I say, how would you do it? This is how I would do it, Daddy. Tell me about the characters. I would have this vampire that is also related to a dinosaur, and I would have him come out, and he's like, oh, wow, that's scary, buddy, right? It's scary, right? And he gets all excited about it. I'm like, but my 6-year-old, he's never said vampire. My 8-year-old started talking about vampires at 2 years old, 3 years old. Ooh, how did you even, I've never seen a vampire. I don't like vampires. No one in his family likes vampires. How the hell do you like vampires? He likes vampires, okay? So if my son tells me he wants to go in the movie direction, and I'm going to build Valuetainment into a media company, he tells me he wants to go to movie direction, and he tells me how serious he is, and he goes to USC, the best school in America where Spielberg went to, and he can go and learn from there. No problem here with your daddy sending you to school because you're going to the right place, because God knows what other friends he's going to make contacts with. So what if he's going to be a Spielberg, or if he's not, the Spielberg is there, he becomes friends with the Spielberg, they may be doing business together for the rest of their lives, right? But if the middle one says, Dad, honestly, man, I just want to, after college, I really don't know what I want to do. I want to go see the world for a year and then backpack and come back. Okay, cool, let's have the conversation, see what your motive is behind it. But I'm gonna draw out what their interest is, and then take them very young, and try to put them as much around that as possible. So then water it, and then that can lead into what could possibly be.
But it's not the traditional. I just remember my growing up, college.
No, I'm not gonna say that, but I will say, if they want to, because the part about college that is my biggest benefit that I encourage people to go to, remember, the guy that was a classmate of Zuck, whose name is Edward, who wasn't as brilliant as, as Zuck, but his dad put $18,000 into the Facebook. That guy, Edward, is worth $6 billion today.
Because of the association.
Of course.
Gotcha.
So, they dropped out of college, go for it if you dropped out of college. The guy's still worth $6 billion just because he was friends with Zuck. I want my kids to be friends with those Zucks of the world, because you never know what it could turn into. And that's going to happen a lot in college.
Patrick, how much do you sleep? I want to start the people say everybody's thinking about being an entrepreneur. It's the hot topic now. They think they're going to get in the business because they can wake up when they want, they can work when they want. They're the boss. But I don't know if it's necessarily, I want to know your...
Yeah, I'll give you an idea right now, okay, with this coronavirus. So I got 2 companies I'm running, and a lot of people are relying on me to make decisions, and I got a wife and 3 kids that I'm still trying to, there's spring break and all this other stuff, so you get a lot of curveballs that are being thrown. I'm probably averaging 4 hours of sleep the last couple weeks of where I'm at. I think one of the nights I slept 7.5 hours, which was beautiful, but I'm probably going 4 to 5 right now, okay? But typically we'll sleep 6 hours. I try to get my 6 hours. I can go every night 6 hours for 12 months and I'm good, right? And then sometimes we'll go on vacations, we'll go somewhere and I'll get my 7. If my kids are around me, I never sleep 8 hours. It's just period. When you have young kids, you're not gonna sleep that kind of hours. But some can handle it, some can't handle it. But I can tell you also as well, if I go too much without good sleep, my temper's a little bit higher, I'm not as sharp, I'm a little bit quick, short with people. Yeah, so I do need to get my sleep for me to be energized and refuel. So I time it I try to time it properly. Well, my wife will say I need to sleep more.
Well, for the people that are watching that thinks that they're going to be an entrepreneur, to be their own boss, Pat, what words of wisdom would you tell them?
Who do you want to be and what kind of a life you want to live? Because if you want to be an entrepreneur...
Regarding the sleep thing, they're going to get into be the entrepreneur so they can...
What I'm saying to you is the same thing. How big of a business do you want to build?
Gotcha.
Because if you just want to be a solopreneur and you want to make... There's people that are entrepreneurs who only make 50 grand a year. What is the real definition of an entrepreneur? The entrepreneur, it's got a lot of different meanings to a lot of different people. To me, it's when you don't rely on the government or another company to pay you to be an entrepreneur. You're making your income. What is the definition of an entrepreneur? Entrepreneur is somebody that's like an entrepreneur that works for a company. Okay, so I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was forced to be an entrepreneur because of a lady named Susan. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always wanted to be an intrapreneur. I wanted somebody else to be at the top who is doing this stuff, and within it, I'm the best right-hand guy that I'm coming up. And then later on, I was put in positions where I had to become the person that makes a decision. Again, goes back, the sleep part. Who do you want to be? What kind of a life you want to live? If it's a big life, you ain't going to get the best kind of sleep while you're in the moment of building your company. And if you think you are, you're fooling yourself. You are.
That's what I was kind of looking for, my friend, just to kind of put it out there. I think the people that are watching, looking for something big. Pat, what do you think makes you so relatable to the millionaire CEO down to the aspiring new entrepreneur? What makes you stick?
I mean, I don't know. I think the audience can probably answer that more than I can, because, sometimes people would ask me and they say, well, what is it to work with you? I said, don't ask me. Go ask the people that work with me. See what they tell you. They're gonna. If I want to know you, I'm gonna talk to Smitty. I'm not gonna talk to him. I say, so tell me, how is he really? Because I may ask you and you may just give me one version of it, but he may say, look, then let him fool you. He's got also this side. He's got also this side. Okay, great. So what time does he come in? What time does he do that? So I don't know. As far as the millionaires and the billionaires and the average guy that's coming up.
You are agreeing that you relate, though, to.
Oh, I think so. I think so. And the reason why I relate, I definitely relate to people that don't have money, because 60% of my life was that, up until 24, 25. What is that? 60% of my life I've been broke. I had nothing going on, right? 60% of my life, I had less than $15,000 in savings. 60%. Okay, you got to know that part. So then you got the other 40% that you're dealing with where you're at. So if I live 60% of my life, I know what it is to be in that side. So I relate 100% where they're at. But then the other side is also, eventually, my dad did something to me very early on that made a big impact. We were at the Sherman Oaks Mall, Galleria, and we're sitting there. I'm 13, 14 years old, and it was the weekend I'm spending time with him. We're sitting at Burger King, and I look aside, and I said, wait a minute, that's David Hasselhoff. I said, Dad, that's Baywatch. Mm-hmm. And I just got back from Germany. David Hasselhoff in Germany is Brad Pitt. Okay. They think David Hasselhoff is God, right? So I'm like, oh my gosh, Dad, I want to go talk to him. I want to go to that. He says, no. He says, he needs to come and take a picture from you. I said, what? He said, he needs to come and take a picture from you. I said, what do you say? So I started laughing, but he's not laughing. He says, you need to get your life to the point where he wants to meet you, not the other way around. He said, that's what you want to do. He says, never be intimidated by any man. And this is a kid, I'm 13 at that time. What do you mean, never be intimidated? He says, never let anybody, big or small, intimidate you. So from that moment on, that doesn't mean it's stuck, but as I was getting older and older, I always remember what he said. Never be intimidated, never be intimidated. Don't be a punk, don't be a jerk, don't be an asshole, but get to a point where you can earn the right to sit with anybody at any table. Wow. And eventually when I earned that right, then what are we doing? We're just talking. What do you want to talk about? So it's a great feeling, but a lot of people want to have that kind of respect without earning it. It's fake and it's not, people see through it. You got to earn the right to be able to sit at any table. You can show hopes of confidence and somebody that's got swagger, but there's a difference between that and somebody that sits at a table and people want to hear exactly what you have to say about certain things. What are your thoughts about coronavirus? What do you think about 5G? What do you think about China? What do you think about Venezuela? What do you think about what Buffett just did? Why does he have $128 billion in cash? And you can have a real, valuable, educated conversation. A person walks away saying, you know what? I like his insight. I like where he's coming from. So it was a process of wanting to get to that point. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to study politics and business and finance, because I sat with people that I had no clue about what was going on, and I didn't like it. I said, I want to be able to sit at that table with those people. Mm.
So if you were starting if you were starting today, say from scratch, no Valuetainment, no PHP, what would be your first move?
How old am I?
30.
So and I'm 30 and I've never been in financial industry before, and I'm scratch.
On the entrepreneur side.
What industry you're saying I would go with?
What industry, yes.
It's again, that goes back to the questions that I was saying earlier, how to ask the questions. Because if I worked with you and I had chosen to go into real estate and I want to be an entrepreneur, I would look at what part of the real estate business I was going to be a part of. Okay? If I was in production, I would look at how I can scale a production company. Is it product? Is it independent contractors? How can I scale this? Is it creating an app? Is it creating this? Everything to me would be on how I can scale it with a big opportunity that no one is paying attention to it. So I can't really give that answer, because whoever's watching this, they have to look at who is around them today, what is the biggest influencer, and who's got the biggest upside. Is that person willing to team up with you and have you on their team? If yes, I'm running with that person for a long time, and eventually I want to own a piece of the company that we build together.
Influencers.
Yeah, if you have a company that I'm working with you and I know you're going places, I'm going to whisper in your ear, look, if I work my ass off 5, 10 years from now, I want to own a piece of that. And you're going to say, no problem. Magic said that to Bus. Eventually Magic owned 5% of the Lakers. No problem. So these are conversations that are being had because, hey, if you help me recruit those players on, eventually we're going to give you some equity in the Lakers. No problem. I'm going to go recruit that guy for you, even though you've been retired. So there's conversations in that, but I would probably find a team to run with and an industry that I can find some sweet spots that nobody's looking at that I can improve.
Last question, Pat. Thank you for your time, my friend. What's the next PBD? What does the future look like for you, Pat?
Yeah, so I have a book coming out on June 30th. The title of the book is Your Next 5 Moves, okay? And you know, when you come to the vault, the thing that we do throughout the entire time is we're trying to identify your next 15 moves. The book is titled Your Next 5 Moves, and it's with Simon & Schuster. I can't wait for people to read this book. I'm so excited about it. I think the release is May 19th, and then it goes sale June 30th, type of a number, right?
Okay.
So what are my moves? Long term, in my mind, everything is in increments of 20 years. First 20 years was to make sure I don't make a big mistake that it sets me back a decade or two, okay? First 20 years. But it's also experiences, human nature, learning about people, et cetera, et cetera. Second 20 years is I'm gonna go into business and learn how to make real money in the second 20 years. So the second 20 years, my 20 years is coming up. I'm at 18 and a half years. So I've been in the financial industry for 18 and a half years. It'll be 20 years come 2021. It'll be 20 years, September of 2021, which is 18 months from now, exactly 18 months from now. Then the next 20 years, a part of it is creative for me. So then that's going to be the media side. And then the last 20 years is going to be politics and sports. Whether I own a sports team or I advise people on politics or I do something with that and sit on boards, that would be the last 20 years. If I stay healthy, I got some things I want to do. And then there's some other things that I'm working on it's a little too crazy to say, but I have some plans on what I want to do. But you know, again, all of this is based on staying healthy, and all of this is based on my level of, you know, desire to continue the direction that we're going. And right now, everything is so crystal clear of what happens next and next, right? So it's pretty interesting. But by the way, I wasn't here for a long time. It worked a long time to get here, but the moment I got here, it's good to know the next steps. So that's kind of where I'm at for the next 20, 40 years.
Nice. Roundup family, this has been an interesting conversation with Patrick Bet-David. I'm just honored to be in your presence, my friend. My Real Estate Roundup family, thank you for your time. Make sure you subscribe to the channel below, hit that like button, and we will see you soon on our channel. God bless you guys. Peace.
Take care.